Hello, hi, how are you doing? Another year over, another year of collecting data, and another year of playing far too many video games. Welcome to I Wrapped Myself 2025 edition. And, as always, we can seriously stop making video games now. Before we move on to the real data, let's take a look at the 2025 project. I've been collecting video games my entire life, and unfortunately or fortunately, I finally realized this year that they take up a lot of physical space. Our living room now feels less like a shared space with my partner and more like a space to the great gaming gods of old. That is why in 2025 I decided that I was going to start selling my collection. A lot of my physical collection is less about games that I want to play and more games that I find interesting or are very weird or are just very rare. I wanted to stop that frame of mind and turn my physical collection into games that I love, or I want to play, or I just find far too weird to get rid of. I'm looking at you, the 3 copies of Fuel that I own. The other, less fun reason is that I'm currently unemployed and I don't have much money, and unfortunately, you can't pay bills with video games. I have tried, they just don't accept them. Hence why, for the 2025 project, I'm tracking all the data I spend on games and how much I make selling those video games. I wonder how that went. Here is the complete list of games I sold in 2025. We have some big hitters in here. We have Fist of the North Star Ken's Rage 2, Digimon All-Star Rumble, and of course the unforgettable LEDs. 2 of the 3 games mentioned there were my biggest sellers of 2025. Unfortunately, the rest didn't fare so well. 2025 was a fantastic year for video games. The used game market wasn't great. Lots of really low selling games across the board this year. As a result, the average selling price was £14.18 across the 38 games sold. I won't give the final figure of how much I made. You can do the math. If you multiply the number of games by the average cost, you will see roughly about how much I made. In general, I made a fair bit of money. That wouldn't be an issue, except that, this is the complete list of the 190 games I bought in 2025. For every 1 game I sold, I bought 5 more. See, the problem with being a collector is that you just keep collecting. It's a bit of a cycle. The average spending price was £13.03, and you may say to yourself, well, that's lower than the selling average, and you would be right, except that I bought 152 extra games, so the numbers are a little skewed. Another thing to keep in mind is that the prices on these games are wildly different, from spending 89 pence on something small to spending far too much money on other things. In the end, I spent thousands of pounds on video games, which would be okay, right? I mean, it's just video games. As long as I played all of them, that would be totally fine. Here are the 21 games I played from that list of 190 bought. 169 of the games that I bought last year have still gone unplayed. In conclusion, this project was a complete disaster. I didn't end up reducing my collection, I ended up with more games than I started off with. However, it did put into perspective how bad my spending habits are. This isn't to glorify my spending habits or excuse my spending habits, actually. It's just a way to kind of show that sometimes we have real bad habits that we need to deal with. And it's a lot harder than I think a lot of people give thought to. In 2026, I'm putting a budget on myself. I won't share any of the details here because I'd rather keep that private for now, but hopefully by the end of this year, I won't have spent far too much money on video games. And so, with that out of the way, let's get on to the main event, Wrapped 2025. This is the 152 games I played in 2025. I don't have much to say here except that this is a very cool visual. If you want to hear my thoughts about each and every one of these games, I did a tier list a few days ago. You can check that out on the channel. 152 games played. Of the 152 games I played, I finished 79 games with a finish rate of around about 52%. All the games finished are highlighted here in green with a black dot. Some of the highlights from this year include Murders on the Yangtze River, Natsumon 20th Century Summer Kid, and Shadow of the Ninja Reborn. While none of the games mentioned were released this year, I did enjoy those 3 quite a bit. Not to say that 2025 wasn't a fantastic year for video games. Silksong finally emerged from the shadows and blew us all away. We had the absolute incredible road trip adventure, Keep Driving, and my own personal game of the year, Ina Dream Barbecue. Or BBQ? Just a PSA, Ina is free on Steam by the way, and you can go and play it right now. It is an absolute incredible piece of art, and I recommend that everybody checks it out. I also introduced a new metric this year, abandoning games. That's right, I made the controversial choice of choosing to walk away from a game instead of forcing myself to finish it. Complete madness. I abandoned 29 games this year, with an abandon rate of 19%. All the abandoned games are highlighted in red with a black triangle. I usually rough it out playing most games, even if I hate them. However, it doesn't mean that I hated the game if I abandoned it. It sometimes means that I just didn't gel with the game very well. Examples on the list are Tactics Ogre Reborn, which is a game that I enjoyed quite a bit, except that it just felt that I'd seen everything, and I just wanted to walk away from it. Other games on the list didn't fare too well. I abandoned them because purely I just didn't like them. Again, if you want to hear my thoughts on that, I have a tier list on the channel. Comparing the 2025 stats with the 2024 stats, we can see an increase in games played overall. However, we did see a decrease in games finished overall, and I put that down to the abandon metric. With the introduction of the abandoning concept, this has allowed me to play more games. However, it has affected my total of games finished. As I've said before, I usually tough it out with bad games. I would also say that Project Operation Cell stuff has affected that total number of games played also. I managed to play a lot of games that I would never usually play this year, and that has affected the total number of games played. All in all, this has been a great change to my mannerisms towards playing games this year, and I'll be taking this forward. The 3 most played games I had this year were Borderlands 3, Murders on the Yangtze River, and Tactics Ogre Reborn. In a shocking turn of events, I genuinely enjoyed all 3 of these games. Borderlands 3 and Murders on the Yangtze River were 2 of my favourite games of the year, and the data reflects that. Tactics Ogre Reborn was a game that I did genuinely enjoy, but I did abandon halfway through. I felt like I had seen everything in that game and just wanted to walk away. I highly recommend all 3 of these titles, and they're pretty much available on everything. Unsurprising to myself and almost everybody who knows me, shooters were the dominant genre this year. Adventure games came in second, with surprisingly platformers being the 3rd most popular genre. I would put this down to Operation Project Cell stuff, but I'm pretty sure the majority of games I played on the older systems were adventure games. I'm guessing this year I just needed some shooty, jumpy exploration games. Comparing this data from last year, we can still see that shooters are the dominant genre. However, and more interestingly, we can see that action and RPGs have been swapped with adventure and platforming games. You could look at that data and say that maybe in 2024 I had my fill of RPGs and action games and wanted to move over to a different genre. I would say that I'm just lacking in the RPG department and need to do better in 2026. In terms of hardware, the PC and the Switch continue to be the dominant platforms, but given their portability, I think we can understand why. Due to Project Operation Cell stuff, the PS2 got into the top 3 this year, with the Wii coming in at 4th. I had a lot of games that I wanted to sell on those platforms, so I had to blast through them pretty quickly. If we disregard Project Operation Cell stuff, I would probably say that the PS4 would come in 3rd this year. One other piece of hardware to point out is the Switch 2. I only played 1 game on it this year, and that's down to the fact that I didn't have the budget to really buy any other games with the Switch 2. If we compare the 2024 data to the 2025 data, we can see that the Switch and PC continue to be the dominant platforms. However, we can also see that there has been a reduction in play on the PC and Switch. Again, I would equate this to Project Operation Cell stuff, as that has massively affected the stats this year. The decade stat is a breakdown of each game played from each decade. So if the game was released between 2010 and 2019, that would be +1 in the 2010s bracket. Just want to explain that because I don't think it's as clear in this slide, so there we go. As you can see, the 2000s were dominant in 2025. I wonder why that is. It's kind of weird, right? It's like I did something different and it affected all the stats. If we compare this to 2024, we can see just how much Project Operation Cell stuff affected the 2000s. Apart from that, we can see that the majority of the stats are relatively the same. It is worth noting though that in 2025 I did play 1 more game released in this decade than in 2024. This stat is not helpful at all, not in any kind of way, but I do love the visuals of it. I did manage to play one game from each year starting in 1989 all the way up to 2025, and I think that's kind of awesome. Well, with all the data from 2025 reviewed, let's take a look at the project for 2026. Look, I'm gonna be honest here, 2025 was pretty tough, both as a year in general and also on a personal level. I had to go back to therapy, I had some family issues, and the ever-increasing weight of my idiotic spending habits are really having its toll on me. But more than that, more than anything else, the state of my unemployment has just utterly wrecked me. 2026 will be the second year of my complete unemployment from the games industry, and I find that personally devastating. By the time of recording, I've probably been unemployed for more than 400 days, and that isn't for a lack of trying. I've applied for possibly thousands of jobs both inside and outside of the games industry with no luck whatsoever. I have been to classes that help me improve my CV or make me more desirable for future employers, and nothing has helped. Don't get me wrong, I've had many close calls, but nothing has led to employment. It's always just either being ghosted or getting the dreaded AI written rejection letter. I have looked all over to find a place that puts my talents to good use. That can be within the industry or outside of the industry, but nothing has come up. And just to point this out, in the UK right now, 5.1% of people are unemployed. And by the looks of it, that number's gonna just keep rising. You can blame it on many things. I've tried and justified why all of this is happening, but at this point, I just don't care anymore. I am so tired. I am just so fucking tired. That's why in 2026, I need to change my tactics. In 2025, I spent a lot of time improving my skills, and it has shown me that in the current state of the world, that does not matter. Education does not guarantee a job anymore. That's why I've taken it upon myself to just make my own game. That is a pretty bold statement to make, and I think that should come with some caveats. I've already started on this project. I have quite a few of the elements in place right now, but I don't want to share any details. It's being made in Unity because that's the engine that I generally enjoy, and unfortunately, I'm going to be using AI for the code base. This is only going to be prototype code. The moment that I can afford it, I will hire a real programmer, and that program is going to come in, and they're going to take all the crappy AI code and pull it out, and then throw it away and do their own thing. I really don't want to be using AI code, but I feel like I'm making a prototype, and that's okay. It's not me justifying AI, by the way, that's just me stating it. I don't want to hide anything away, even if it is code, but that's just how I feel about it. And no, I will not be using it to make art. I think that's dumb, and I hate that more than anything else. The art is the last element that I care about right now. I don't have a vision of what it looks like or anything else. I just know how it plays and how it should work and how it will work. Fuck AI art. So that's the project for 2026. It is less to do with data and stats and more to do with making an actual video game, and I find that far more entertaining this year. So that's the plan. Work on the game. I don't have anything else to show or anything else to say, but I just know that that's what I want to do this year. What I'm hoping is before the start of 2027, we'll have a small prototype together. If we can do more than that, I will be happy. If we could get something out in 2026, I would be ecstatic. But given the fact that I have no team and it's just myself, I doubt that will happen. Making video games is super hard. Super mega hard. Super mega ultra hard. And that's it. Thanks for watching, and I'll hopefully not see you next year. Have fun, y'all!